Good evening. Today is Thursday, December 14th, 2017. The time is 6 o'clock p.m. and the regular meeting of the Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, please silence electronic devices. If everybody would stand, we begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Security, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Absolutely. David Weigel.
Present.
Adam Winslow. Absent. Kim Dornick.
Present.
Diana McKenzie. Absent. Shannon McClone.
Present.
Jody Kaufman. Present.
Thank you. We received the minutes of last month's regular meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. No items are listed under old business. Under new business, update of project status for Redridge Way Phase 2. Is there much of a report, Mr. May?
It's dark here. Yes, I have a report. I did not disperse to you the monthly report from our consultant because I received it late this afternoon. Not much. Give it time. What I can share with you is we have a total of 7 parcels for right-of-way acquisition. 4 of the appraisals are completed and those are now in the appraisal review process. And the other 3 are still in the appraisal process. The right-of-way acquisition remains our critical path. So that is the activity that's most important. The designers continue to work on finalizing the road plans and the traffic signal modernization plans and those components, and also they continue to work on the utility relocation plans. I had a conversation with Patrick a couple of days ago. They still are trying to work with Frontier and Comcast to get their relocation plans. That is not yet the critical path, but it is something that we do need to be attentive to and make sure that process keeps going forwards. We also determined there's a couple of private water lines that will be involved with the project. And earlier this week, we did some utility location work there to ensure we know where and what they are. And our designers will look at that and decide the best way to accommodate that. Likely that will be something we want to include in the contract so that there's no disruption during construction. If our contractor relocates that, it's guaranteed to happen when it needs to happen. So we're looking at doing it that way. Otherwise, it's going forward. We're still on our schedule of a November, December letting in 18 for anticipated construction commencing in the spring, late winter, spring of 19. And every indication is that it can be completed in a season. So by the end of 19, it should be, if not 100% completed, it should be very, very, very close to that. Questions?
Sounds like we're getting
Wow.
closer.
Yeah, it's good that we got 4 of the 7 appraisals completed and the other 3 are on the way. So,
The target is still sometime in mid-January to have the offer letters composed and for our review.
good.
Or I guess technically it's probably the Board of Works, but
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good first step. That's clicking away, so that's good.
yeah.
Moving the can down the road.
There you be.
Without any doubt, having the environmental document concluded is
That was a
everything.
big hurdle to get through.
Yes, And the rest of it, there will come a point where we'll have to figure out how we negotiate the needed right of way, but that's probably the last. Everything else is more technical and functional in nature, and we don't have to rely on other people to do what we want, so.
While you're there, would you mind giving us a Lincoln Street update?
Yes, I would mind. No, I would give you an update. We have the topographic survey data, and I've been working with that data, and I'm in the process of building something we call a surface model, which is a computerized, started to say image, it's a computerized model of what the ground is like out there, and that will become the basis for all of our design work. I've worked with some of the layout, the horizontal layout in terms of street widths and sidewalks and that sort of thing, and have a pretty good handle on that. I need the vertical to finalize some of those things, but we're moving forward. Our hard deadline is having a contract to NDOT by the 15th of April, and we're focused on that because that's worth $600,000, and so we will do that. I'm not really sure how, but we will. We are waiting on the property boundary survey to know what the right-of-way situation is. I have reached out to utilities and told them we're working on the project, and as soon as I get the base mapping finalized, I will get that off to the utilities. I have had conversations with Vectren, and they're planning on replacing all of those lines through there regardless, and their plan is good in that they're wanting to stick the new gas line under the sidewalk, so it won't be highly unlikely that it'll be in the way of anything else. I do know that some of the utility poles on the east side of the street will require relocation. Other than that, I haven't gotten too far with that part of it. Still pretty confident that water and sewer should not be too much of an issue. The only reason that water might become an issue in a couple of places is if the elevation and grade needs of our storm sewers happen to conflict with the elevation of the water lines, and we have very limited latitude on where those storm sewers go vertically. So we continue to work with that. Otherwise, it's just keep my head down and keep working away at it.
When do you have to have plans ready to post for bidding? February 1st, or is that even too late?
Now, I think February 1st is probably the late date. That would require probably a special board of works meeting to, well, no, not necessarily. I don't know who's going to let this job. Are you going to let it? Board of Works going to let it? I hadn't thought about that.
We just pay for it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought we were doing this, but you have let work before. You did phase 1 of Veterans Way. You contracted, so I think that's kind of an inconsequential thing. I mean, whoever needs to do it will, I'm hopeful, accommodate as necessary. So,
So the contract just has to be awarded by April 15th.
we have to submit a signed contract to NDOT
Okay.
before April 15th.
So,
So. Around the 1st of April, at the absolute latest, we need to have a signed contract. So we really need to let it in the middle of February.
in the middle of February, yeah.
And I think we need 10 days, 2 advertisements, 7 days apart, with the first one 10 days in advance, I think.
It's 14.
So
You gotta have a minimum of 14 days. So,
whatever statute requires, we
So
will
it's-
comply
yeah,
with.
it
So
has to
somewhere
be at
around
least
the
2
1st of
weeks prior
February,
to
we will
the-
have plans.
yeah. And they have to.
Earlier if we can.
Yeah. 7 days apart, twice,
Yeah. So
14 days.
there may be some loose ends we have to sort out on the fly, but if necessary, that's what we'll do.
Now, will this be considered, I mean, were those crossing funds federal or state?
There's state money.
So we don't have to worry about federal wages, you just have to get a state,
Honestly, we do not have to worry about
about the federal
about federal.
But you have to maybe,
I don't remember where the state purchasing statute, did they finally get rid of prevailing wage completely?
I don't know, last one that I had that was state, but that was a year ago. We
Yeah.
had to call the special meeting and
Right.
set the wage.
I'm glad you asked about that, because we'll
So
start
maybe
looking
you can
into
check
that.
out, because that, you know, I mean, it's just.
It's just a
meeting,
process to get ahead of.
but- Yeah, but I mean, it takes about, you know, 2 weeks to set the meeting, and you have to advertise the meeting too. And it has to be in 10 days prior to the meeting, because it's a public hearing.
I remember some discussion that the legislature was gonna,
Yeah, I know that there, yeah,
we are big enough that if it's still in the statute, we will have to do
but it
it.
would be over our bidding threshold for the county. I mean, if it's, you know, if it's over 600, everything.
It's gonna be 1.2 to
Exactly.
1.4.
So, I mean, yeah, so
It's gonna be, if
over.
the statute still exists,
Right.
it's gonna
I
be
mean,
there.
I think it's like 150 for our county, I'm not for sure, I'd have to check it,
Right.
but yeah.
I was thinking maybe 300, but regardless, it's still,
Yeah, it's not a whole lot, but we need to check to see if we need to have that the prevailing wage meeting. That's what you're fancy. That's very celestial.
sorry about that.
That was like chimes, I was like,
It was trying to assign,
I
it was trying to assign a ringtone, so apparently it was just randomly sampling.
was like,
Pleasant.
I feel like I should go to mass now.
Anything else on Lincoln?
Think you've answered any questions I have?
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Next item, approval of claims. We have our usual, looks like usual monthly claim from American Structure Point for $3,026. I'd entertain a motion for approval of payment.
I would make the motion to approve that.
Thank you, Ken. Jody, do I hear a second?
I second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We don't have a notice yet from Main Source Bank, but I think it's January 15th, we have to pay our bond repayment, and the clerk checked into it for me, and in January, that payment is supposed to be $244,828.24. So rather than having a special meeting, if we could just make a motion to approve payment, and I'll go in and sign the claim in early January, then I have authorization, so
I'll motion.
thank you, Jody.
And I would second it.
Thank you, Ken. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, I'm sorry, how much was that amount?
244, 828, and 24 cents. If there's nothing else to come before the board, our next meeting is on Thursday, January 18th, 2018. And we could probably have election of officers that day, so if anybody wants to get out campaigning and impeach the
I'll
current
get your signs
president
printed up.
of,
It's like.
Or who?
I'll get Dave's signs printed up.
want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and on a little more somber note, like we all know, Bayette is not here this evening due to the unfortunate passing of her husband. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you.